The earth is getting warmer and warmer. The air has become less fresh. Somehow we are in a crisis of sustainability for Mother Earth. Now, can technology help reduce waste on Earth? Can technology help us save the Earth and make it a greener place to live? Now we are going to answer some of these questions. We are going to look at some of the things which we can do right today, beginning at our homes, to turn around and help sustain this Mother Earth. My name is Ramesh Victor. I am a management consultant as well as an innovation practitioner. Let us see what we can do in order to save Earth and turn it into a green place and a sustainable Earth. Friends, sometimes we think that technology is something which is very, very complex, that only scientists should look into it. But then, technology is basically an advancement of any kind of science which we use to make our lives better. Somehow technology has contributed to make our life here on Earth a lot more easier. We travel with less ease. We make things with machines. We are able to do all sorts of things which was very difficult hundreds of years ago. Thanks to technology, we have become a globalized nation. The internet has turned around the way we actually communicate and deal with each other. Technology has helped us. But at the same time, technology has also made this Earth to become a warmer place. Technology has also contributed to make this world become a place with all sorts of emissions and gases. Technology has contributed to a green Earth becoming a brown and even becoming a black Earth. Now, what is green technology in all this? How can we make use of green technology to turn around and to change the aims and direction of technology so that we are contributing towards sustainability? Green technology refers to any innovation intended to reduce the impact of humans on the environment. As I mentioned earlier, when we talk about technology, it need not necessarily be the work of scientists. It need not necessarily be the work of complex transformation. Any kind of technology which can help us actually improve the environment can be a green technology. That's good news for us. We are going to look into some ways where we can act on these technologies right today and start saving Earth. There are certain things which we call as wastes. There are 7 of these wastes. They are called as the 7 green wastes. Somehow these 7 green wastes contributes towards global warming, contributes towards an Earth which is environmentally unfriendly, contributes towards an Earth which is filled with carbon emission, contributes to an Earth where people's lives are suffocated because of the various kinds of gases that are taking place on Earth. Now, what are these wastes? Can we do something about these wastes? The 7 wastes which we call as the 7 green wastes, which is often familiar to people in industries, and they try to reduce it so that they can become more efficient and effective, is not well known by people who are living at homes and are trying to do something for the environment domestically. The 7 green wastes are energy, water, materials, garbage, transportation, emission, and biodiversity. Energy simply means any kind of power source which we use to heat up so many things and to make various kinds of machines and electronics run. Now, one good thing about energy is it makes our life easy. But at the same time, the more energy we consume, the hotter it becomes around the Earth. So, energy has to be conserved, energy has to be reduced, and energy has to be saved. Now, water is an important element on Earth. Water is sometimes scarce in many places, so much so that people are not even having enough water to drink and not having a healthy lifestyle. Now, when we consume too much of water, that is not only going to affect our drinking as well as our consumption of water for livelihood, but it is going to affect the entire ecosystem of the earth. Plants, the oxygen, everything is there being run with the need for water. Now, when we talk about materials, we are talking about all sorts of materials which are used to turn around and turn it into items and units and goods which we buy and use. When we overuse these things, we somehow need various kinds of natural resources, various kinds of items and technology to turn them into products, and we are then creating all sorts of emissions around the earth. We need to reduce the amount of material that we consume. Garbage is the thing that we throw away. Can we reduce this? Garbage is the thing which becomes all sorts of dumping site. Garbage is the thing which emits all sorts of dangerous fumes and gases, so much so that people's livelihood around it is affected. Transportation is one thing. While it's good where it is bringing us around, too much of transportation, especially with technology like cars, buses, aeroplanes, motorbikes and so on, are bringing out carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide emissions which are so dangerous. So it's a waste. We have to reduce it. And there are various other kinds of emissions which take place because of advanced technology, which are running various kinds of machines which require fuel, which require various kinds of gas coming out as waste. Emissions also will have to be reduced. And finally, we have this life system in this earth, plants, living organism, various kinds of life system. And sometimes we are even cutting this life system. We are cutting trees, we are cutting down plants, and we are having more and more and more land without any kind of biodiversity in it. Now that is a waste. We have to reduce such action. Now today I'm going to look at only 4 items. Now though these are big words like energy, water, emission and biodiversity, I'm going to show you how 4 of this waste can be reduced right today when you go back after listening to this talk. That's interesting. Yes, these are simple things which we can do, which will make a difference in our living and will make a difference in the earth. We can do it right at our homes. We can do it in our neighborhood. Now, what are they? Let's first of all look at energy. Today we are going to talk about energy, water, emissions and biodiversity. Not to its full extent, but some of the things which we can do in these 4 areas right today which can make the world a greener place. First of all, let's talk about energy saving. You all know that all sorts of energy is needed to run our machines, and one of the most common energy is actually electricity. When electricity is used, we have lights in our houses, we have heaters in our houses, we have air conditioning system in our houses, and there is a big system of consumption which is actually used in order to bring this energy to your homes. And when we use this energy, heat is coming out of our homes. When more heat is coming out, we are causing global warming. When we use too much of energy, more than what we require, there is a shortage of energy which will then force people to use various kinds of technologies which may not necessarily be green to the earth, just to supply this energy for the needs of the people and for the wants of the people. Now, did you know that in fact if you change your water heaters and replace your electrical water heaters with a solar system water heater, you will be able to reduce about 50 to 80% in the consumption of energy. Yes, your bill on terms of heating elements will go down by 50 to 80%. Now this is simple logic, because solar energy does not need any kind of power supply coming into it. All it does is it uses free sunlight to be converted into energy and give you that energy to heat up your elements without any cost. When you don't spend that cost on electricity which is coming out, less of that electricity needs to be produced, and therefore less of those harmful emissions and harmful to the green earth things that are happening will take place. Simple decision. Can we spend about 4 to 5,000 ringgit in our homes to invest on a energy saving solar panel heater? Now, solar panel heaters are so good to the extent that you can heat up water to boil your coffee, boil your boil water for tea, and in fact you can take a bath in it. Okay, so it can heat up water for your whole house. Solar panel heaters are something which we can go immediately. It does not necessarily need a lot of thinking. It does not necessarily need a big transformative technology to actually go and implement at home. Buy it, fix it, and the next day we are saving energy. Imagine if your entire Taman, imagine if your entire community around you got together, fix solar panels around your homes, okay, on top of your home ceilings, roofs and so on. What will happen to the energy consumption in the entire Taman? It will reduce at large. This is one simple thing which you can do, which actually helps us to save energy. Now the second thing is what we call as LED lights. Now in the good old days we had these lights which were used, in our homes, which used to produce so much of heat but less lumens. Lumens is the amount of brightness a light emits. When we had those menthol lights, when we had this all those olden days lights, and some of us are still using these lights. Now just by changing these lights in our houses, just by changing all the bulbs in our houses to LED lights, what we can do is we can actually save up to about 90% of the energy needed to light up our houses. Dear friends, this is such an easy thing to do. LED lights and LED bulbs are now sold anywhere, in do-it-yourself stores, in electrical shops, and even in small grocery shops they are being sold. And they are sold for merely 5 ringgit, 6 ringgit, 10 ringgit and so on. Imagine an effort to turn your entire house into LED bulb. How much of energy you can save, how much of heat you can reduce, because LED lights emit less heat, give you brighter lumens, and at the same time saves you on the bill on electricity, and overall saves energy consumption for a greener earth. Now these are two things which we could do right in our homes. We can make use of our decision to make use of these two technologies to turn it into a green technology for our home and for our Taman. Now the third energy saving thing which you could do at your home is actually what we call as inverters. Now inverters is a kind of a technology which is used in air conditioners as well as in refrigerators and various other refrigeration systems, in order to reduce the amount of energy use and at the same time reduce the amount of heat coming out of these electrical gadgets or items which we fix in our homes. Now I have an experience of changing the aircon in my house and also changing the fridge in my house to what we call as inverter models, and these usually come with star rating. When it's a 5-star, that means the inverter is good enough to save you a lot of energy and a lot of money in terms of electrical bill. My experience showed that my monthly bill, just by changing one aircon and one refrigerator, went down from somewhere around 500 to 600 ringgit a month to merely about 250 to 300 ringgit a month. That's about 200 over ringgit of savings per month. Imagine, we are not only saving money, we are actually saving energy, and while saving energy, we are emitting less heat onto the earth, and while emitting less heat into the earth, we are basically turning the earth into a greener place to live in. Next, water. We talked about energy savings. We talked about 3 kinds of energy savings which you could do right at your home and right at your neighborhood right tomorrow if you wanted to. It does not require scientists to come and think about how you can make the world greener around your home and around your neighborhood. The third thing is water. Do you know that simple gadgets can reduce the amount of water you use at home by at least about 30 to 40%? Yes, spray taps, low flow shower heads, maybe even a sensor or even a valve which actually reduces the amount of water which comes out from a tap and then offs when you move your hand away. Now these things have been there for a long time. We see it in hotels, we see it sometimes in our working place, but we rarely fix it at our homes. At home, water consumption is basically free flowing. Now water is something which you could save very easily using these simple innovations. Now so far we had all been seeing technology at its best use because these are simple technologies, cheap technologies, and because we use them to save energy and because we use them to save the earth, we can call them as green technology. Can you buy a valve and fix it at your tap tomorrow? You will be resting assured that water is being consumed less at your home. Imagine if you did it to your entire Taman. Your entire Taman is going to consume less water. There is this simple thing, very simple thing called a rainwater butt, where you just fix it outside your home, and then when rain comes, it catches this rainwater, and there's a simple filtration system in it. And when the butt is full, basically you can use the water to water your plants, wash your porch, wash your house, even wash your car if you wanted to. Okay, and you can use it for any purpose other than drinking, of course. For drinking water, you will need filtered and boiled water, which is treated water which comes from our pipes. But the use of rainwater back into the plants, the use of rainwater to wash our porches saves so much of water from our consumption because it is going back into the ecosystem. So this is one very simple thing you can implement at your home. You can put right in your whole Taman in order to save water. Now we are in a blessed land, Malaysia, because we have heat and rain throughout the year. So we will be able to produce solar energy throughout the year. We will be able to catch water throughout the year. So blessed land. So it is such a simple technology, just innovation of a container with some filtration which you fix right outside your house. In fact, you can even buy your own container and do it yourself to make this rainwater butt. That is green technology. That is innovation at its simplest form. Next, my friends, we talked about how to make use of technology. Now, I want to talk about counter technology. What I mean by counter technology is using our innovation to use technology less so that we will be reducing emission. Now, the more cars we have driving around our homes, driving around our tamans, driving around our towns, the more emission is going to come out of it. Can we make a decision to just walk to nearby destinations, or maybe use a bicycle to go to nearby destinations, or maybe take a public transportation when we want to go somewhere and need not drive? When we make these three decisions, we will be reducing the number of cars coming out of our homes. And this is left entirely to your own decision. And you need not invest on anything in order to practice, walk, bike and ride in order to save the emission, in order to reduce emissions coming out from various kinds of transportation. Now, if let's say your entire Taman is going to walk around rather than drive around, let's say your entire Taman is going to cycle around instead of driving around or riding around, let's say many people in your Taman are going to carpool to go to work, you are going to have a greener Taman and you're going to contribute towards your own health because you're exercising while saving the earth. Now this is what we call as emission reduction through the simplest form of innovation, that is deciding not to use technology at times. Finally, I want to talk about biodiversity. Biodiversity can be such a long, lengthy and complex topic that it can deal from just recycling and go deep into the way we conserve our seas, airs and all sorts of life organism. But today I want to focus only on one thing which everyone in every home uses: paper. We use paper to write, we use paper to wrap, we use paper for all sorts of things. Here are three things which we could use on paper in our homes. The first thing is reduce paper. Don't use paper for everything. We have enough technology today to actually go digital. We can email rather than writing something and giving someone. We can send an electronic message rather than writing a letter and sending someone. We can actually reduce the amount of paper we use in our homes. Next, we can recycle paper. Use the front portion of the paper. For the little paper you need to use, also use it at the back portion of the paper. Once you have used it for writing, use it for some other purposes, for wrapping and so on, or even for some kind of a craft work. And even when you throw, don't just dump it. Give it away or sell it to the recycle areas or the recycle factories which actually turn paper into recycled paper. And finally, make sure that paper is not used to the excess. We call this as reduce use, we call this as recycle use, and we call this as something we do not use in excess. When we do not use paper in excess, we simply mean that we are not cutting more trees, because papers come from trees. The last thing is, one of the most powerful things which can happen, which can affect all types of savings as far as a green earth is concerned, is to consume less. Today, when we go back home, we can think about consuming less of everything and anything. The fact that we decide to buy 2 pairs of shoes rather than 4 pairs of shoes, we will be saving less animals to be cut in order to turn it into a leather. The fact that we decide to buy just 2 homes instead of 10 homes, we are saving more and more of all the material which is needed to build homes and buildings. The fact that we are going to decide to buy 5 pairs of clothes rather than 25 pairs of clothes this year, we are going to decide to make use of less material, technology, factories to make the shirts in order to sell it to us. Anything that we reduce, anything at all that we reduce because that we consume less, is somehow going to lead to a lesser use of the resources, lesser use of the factories, and lesser use of overproduction. When this happens, we are making use of our mind and our habits in an innovative manner. When we make use of it in an innovative manner, somehow we have contributed towards a green technology. A green technology which is saving the environment, a green technology which is saving the earth. So dear friends, we have talked about something which is very, very close to our heart, that is saving the earth. We have talked about something which is usually considered to be something beyond our control. But today we have discussed how, by doing some simple things at home, today and tomorrow, simple things at your Taman, you could start saving the earth. So I wish you well in saving the earth. Well, I'm going to make a decision to use some of these things. Some of these things I have already started to make use of in my home. And I'm going to make a decision to add more things, to use green technology at my home, to use green technology at my neighborhood, so that I too can contribute towards a greener earth. Dear friends, I just spoke to you about making use of simple technology to actually go and save the earth. But where do we start, and how do we start? We are people who are learning all the while. Our education system has brought to us various kinds of knowledge base and science into our minds. But all this science which we have learned, all this knowledge which we have obtained, is used by us for the advancement of various kinds of technology, advancement of various kinds of systems in the world, without very often thinking about how it is affecting the Mother Earth in general, how it is going to affect the future generations because of the various negative impact on the environment itself. So the starting point is actually to convince ourselves that green technology is something very, very important in our lives. When we talk about green technology, basically we are talking about making use of innovation to come out with simple solutions as well as complex solutions so that we can contribute towards a greener earth and a sustainable earth. Now, these green technologies I have shown you a short while ago need not necessarily be something which is dependent on scientists. We could do it right at our homes. We could do it right at our neighborhoods. Now, my point here is, where do we make a starting point? And how do we make a starting point? Now, the simplest suggestion I would like to make is, when you go back home, think about it. I want to have a plan to turn around my house to become a greenhouse in 1 month. Just 1 month. If I'm going to turn around my house into a greenhouse in 1 month, I am talking about a greener house. Not necessarily a greenhouse to the extent that my entire house is so technologically advanced that it is saving energy, saving water, saving emissions, saving biodiversity in every way possible. Now that's the wrong process. That's a wrong thought process. When we talk about a greenhouse, it is a greener house compared to what it is today. Now that is the thinking process we need to start with. I want to make my house to be a greener house in 1 month. Now, when we have put a target in 1 month that I want to make my house into a greener house, what would then be the simplest thing for me to do? The simplest thing for me to do is to reduce the simplest of ways that I am spending every day, every week, every month actually. Now, among the various things I showed you, I probably would start with paper. I would start using less paper. I would start recycling paper. That's the simplest thing that I can do. So in 1 month, if I had started reducing paper, I have used the first technology, which is technology which you can send all sorts of digital information around and reduce cutting trees because you need papers. Yes, in 1 month, you have made your home greener and you have contributed the world to become a little bit greener because you're going to cut a little bit extra tree because of you. Now the next month, I can convince my neighbors to actually go and reduce paper. While I convince my neighbors to reduce paper and do the same thing which I did, I can do the second thing. The second thing is I would go and put a container outside my house and catch water. Whenever it rains, I will fill up my container and I will make use of this water to wash my porch. I would make use of this water to plant and to water plants around my house. Even the smallest area can be made green with plants and watered with rainwater, so much so that you need not spend money on the water which comes from the tap. Yes, if I do that, what I have done is on the second month, I have made my house a little bit greener. Then on the second month, what I will do is, after the end of the second month, I will go and convince my neighbors. I am using the water from the rain to actually go and water my plants. Why don't you do that? And when in 2 months or when in 3 months, your entire neighborhood is using less paper and less water because of the water butt, you have transformed your own kampong, your own taman to be greener. And I would act on this on an ongoing basis until I go into the slightly more expensive solutions which are needed to make my house and my taman a greener place. You know, what are the things which we could do if we collaborate? Maybe if we collaborated as a taman to go and buy these panels, or we call it as the solar panels for water heating system. Maybe because we bought an entire taman, whole taman is buying it, we could get it for a cheaper price. Maybe it is a Taman Rukun Tetangga initiative, and because the entire taman is buying it, probably we could get it at a cheaper cost for fixing it. And probably we could even set it up to share this cost among our neighborhood so that it is all the more efficient and all the more effective in buying it and fixing it. We all know the more we buy, the bigger the discount we can get. So we can support each other. Now, by supporting each other, we will be able to actually introduce all the kind of simple green technologies I was talking to you about right inside your homes. Now, are you ready? Are you ready to do this? That's the big question. The question is, we need to take the initiative to be committed to the effort of wanting to make the earth greener. That is what we call as the leadership change. So in order to make this leadership change, a decision has to be made. Now the famous motivational speaker Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins once said, "It is in your moments of decisions that your destiny is made." Now what he meant by this is, when you make a decision to achieve anything, that decision means you will act on it. So when you act on it, that is what we call as a decision. So a decision is a thought process which is accompanied by action. So can I turn my thought process of wanting to have a greener earth, wanting to have a greener home, wanting to have a greener Taman into an action? Yes, the first thing was a leadership principle. A leadership principle which is allowing us to implement green technologies in our homes and then convincing our neighbors to actually go and do it more and more. That was the beginning of the leadership principle. Next is for us to make a decision. Make a decision to actually spread this out beyond your Taman. Spread this out beyond where you are living. Spread this knowledge and spread this thing into more serious technologies. Buy the next car you change. Buy a car which is maybe energy saving, maybe which is also something which is friendly to the ecosystem, probably a car which is actually made out of recycled material about 20 to 30%, like the kind of cars which Nissan had been making, Nissan Leaf. Or maybe you want to buy a hybrid car. The next time when you want to buy a house, make sure that everything that you fit in there is eco-friendly. Now these things will only come when you have made a decision to be a leader, to want to change the earth into a green earth, and you want to make use of technology as green technology. So it is number one, leadership. Number two, decision. And what is going to be the number three? The number three is going to grow in learning and understanding deeper and deeper the various kinds of causes which is actually affecting the earth. Now, that will include the 7 green ways I had presented earlier. What are these 7 green ways? Where do they exist? Do they only exist around my home? Do they also exist around my working place, my school? Now, whatever I have learned, if I am an engineer, now if I am an electrical engineer, if I am a mechanical engineer, if I am a scientist of whatever kind, if I am a chemical scientist, how may I use the science and the knowledge and the skill which I have used in order to turn something into a technology which is going to reduce one of these 7 green waste? When I make that decision, then you become a game changer. You may be an individual, you may be a small group of people, but you will become a game changer. You will become a group of people in the community who's thinking differently. Why you're thinking differently? Because you're not just a consumer of technology, but you are an innovative designer of technology which will save the earth. So remember, friends, the decision is in your hands. You make the decision to save the earth. And I have put forward to you, it starts with the simplest of steps, right at your doorstep, right at your home. Go back today, save some energy. On your way back home, buy an LED bulb and change one bulb if you have not already changed the bulbs at your home. If you don't want to change a bulb, go back today. Put a container outside your home. When it rains next, catch some water. Water your plants. And you are contributing towards a green earth, and you have innovated. And last but not least, don't forget to walk. Don't forget to take your bicycle. Use less of the technology which is contributing towards carbon emissions. Thank you and best wishes.